This is the first small group discussion with J. Krishnamurti at Brockwood Park, 1973.
What shall we talk over together?
So, I would like to talk about authoritarianism. Not necessarily the kind which affects outer lives, but the kind which has more impact upon the inner life. Authoritarian groups, authoritarian orders, which lay down particular lines indicating which way one should conduct one's inner path towards understanding. Whether outer or inner, they appear to be associated always with fear. But there is one school of thought, perhaps, which says that authority is good for one. Authority purifies. Discipline, in the sense of authority, purifies. This whole subject of authority, of which you speak so often, for me remains a difficulty. I always find myself in rebellion against authority, constantly as the years go by.
And also, sir, it has been said, authority is the authority of the wise is the salvation of the foolish by the authoritarians. So, shall we go into that?
I was going to bring up the same subject, actually, because I feel we're in danger of taking your words as authority. This is a big problem.
Shall we discuss that, the whole question of authority? Perhaps into that we can bring a lot of other things. Whether the authority of the observer has any value at all.
Perhaps we could also bring in, to emphasize the question of fear, which is behind authority.
Authority, yes.
Something deeper than authority.
Yes. Shall we really discuss that? Would it be... Do you want to discuss it? Why does one want authority at all? And what does that word authority mean? We looked it up the other day, and it said, author, who originates a principle, an idea, something new. And from that word author, the authority derives. Now, what is the necessity of authority at all? Does it act as a guide for our confused minds? Does it eliminate fear altogether? Because one obeys certain authority. Does it eliminate altogether the sense of division in oneself and outwardly? And if it is the result of authority, of fear, then the question arises, is it possible to eliminate fear altogether and therefore no authority, no outside agency for our own understanding? Is authority necessary if one is a light to oneself? So all these problems are involved. So to take fear, which makes us accept authority. A doctor becomes the authority. A scientist, an engineer, and so on. The acceptance of that authority is based on fear. The outward authority of law of instruction, or are we talking about the authority which disorder breeds? Mussolini came into being because of total disorder in Italy at one time. And if we are inwardly disorderly, will it not breed an outward authority or authority which that disorder sets up? Now, I do not know how deeply one wants to go into this question. Whether it is merely a verbal discussion that we are having, an intellectual discussion, or a dialogue in which each one of us participates and really gets to the root of our fear, the root of our disorder, the acceptance of authority. At what level, with what care and intensity are we talking this matter over? I think that ought to be first settled. Is it a verbal discussion? Opinion against opinion? And can opinion ever discover truth of the whole structure of authority and fear? If opinion does not, opinion being highly cultivated judgment of study and so on, if it does not, then are we prepared to put aside opinion as a means of understanding? And so it will no longer be a superficial discussion. So how deeply are we prepared for this? Do we want to go to such lengths? Please, I'm not just the talker. You're all.
I think whatever we're discussed, shouldn't it be a two-way sort of exchange rather than...
Yes, sir, that's what we're trying to do.
You telling us...
Of course, that's what we're trying to do. An exchange, a communication, where you and I and others share in this, find out. Neither am I the speaker asserting an opinion or you or another, but together we'll find out for ourselves the nature of authority, where its importance is, where its necessity is, and where it's destructive, and what is the nature of fear, which projects authority, either outwardly or inwardly. And the authority brought about through confusion in oneself and disorder in oneself, all that's involved. So before we go into that, are we discussing this thing, talking over together superficially, or really wanting to go very deeply and either eliminate fear and so authority, or are we merely indulging in a form of mental exercise?
Sir, it is a living question. Superficial intellectual handling of the question will be quite inadequate as far as I'm concerned.
I think so too, sir. So if we all think that same thing, that superficial and intellectual examination is utterly, has no meaning for those who are really serious in this matter, then we can go into this question. Am I, or is one, prepared to observe one's disorder in one's life, which must inevitably project authority, consciously or unconsciously? If one is in disorder, then one rushes off to the guru, to a book, to a person, or whatever it is. So I think it is important to discover for ourselves if there is disorder, if our life, everyday life, in our existence, there is disorder. And who is the examiner? Who is the entity says, I am disorder? So one has to go into this question of, is the observer different from the disorder? I won't go into all that now, just now. So please, let's talk this over. Am I prepared, both verbally, intellectually, and inwardly, prepared to really investigate into myself the nature and the structure of disorder? All such discussion. And what do we mean by disorder?
Problem seems to me at the point at which one discovers where disorder is. I mean, if I am attached to authority, or if I accept authority.
No, sir. No, we are not discussing the acceptance of authority. We are trying to understand how authority arises not the acceptance of authority.
But I can only be aware of whether I accept authority because of the moments when when the disorder arises. I do accept authorities, I know.
Why?
A lot of this is just habit.
Like smoke? Like smoking, like eating meat? Like, some habit that one has superficially cultivated?
No, not one is brought up to accept authority.
I know that's the tradition, that is our education, and so on, so on, so on. Are we aware of that? And what are the effects and the results and the nature of that acceptance of authority? All that's involved in it. Not just that I accept authority. Why do I accept it? Whether that of the speaker or of anybody, why do we accept it? Why do I accept the authority of a doctor? Or the authority of a guru? Or the priest? Why?
Because we feel that they may know. We feel that they may know more than we do.
The doctor certainly knows more than I do, than I can ever know, because he spent many years in the study of medicine, and so on, so on. So I accept him. Now, the guru, the teacher, the priest, does he know more? What does he know?
We assume he knows more.
I think you started by saying authority means the originator, the one that originates, and we feel that in a spiritual sense the priest has discovered something which we haven't, and for myself perhaps I feel I'm unable to originate in that sense, and I think that perhaps this is...
Originate what? What has the guru originated? Guru, I'm taking that word, you understand, that terrible word that has crept into this country and all over the world.
Don't many people go to a guru in the same sense that I might go to the dictionary to look up a word? In other words,
Well, what does he know more than the disciple? What does he know?
He is presumed.
I'm asking the guru. You are my guru, and I say, you're my guru. I say, what do you know more than I do? What is it you know? I know I've discussed this matter personally with dozens of gurus, very, very, very famous and the little ones. And I would, in talking over, they say, we know, we have experienced. I said, what have you experienced? Truth, enlightenment. How do you know you have it? Oh, he says, you are just a seeker. And they brushed me off. So, if we could go into this question, apart from the doctors, apart from the scientists, apart from the organizers of specific technological knowledge, apart from those, engineer, the architect, and so on, those who say, the so-called spiritual leaders, the inward leaders, I question altogether their authority. I'm not frightened. If I make a mess of my life, I want to correct it, but not according to their light.
Are we examining only the field of so-called spiritual inquiry?
That's what we began with.
I mean, is it authority only in that field? That
That's what we are doing, because otherwise we get rather confused.
What about the authority? I should say that even in the scientific field, there's a tremendous misuse of authority. In fact,
Even there, of course,
and,
of course.
In the spiritual field, as you were saying, there's no justification for authority at all. But
So, isn't that so, sir? The knowledge of the scientists, the biologists, the archaeologists and so on, they have abused their knowledge, and we all know that, but we're not specifically discussing that, are we?
well, they're connected, because part of the way in which authority is imbued in people is to accept some of the scientific authorities as well.
Yes. Shall we come back to that after we have discussed the so-called spiritual authority, the inner, and then come to the outer? May we do that, sir?
Around the altar, it seems that always there gathers a number of followers. And these followers together constitute a kind of weight. And this weight becomes authority, and this weight produces fear, and the fear then produces the disorder. And out of the disorder, one finds oneself unable to face that weight.
Isn't that weight entirely rejected from your own mind? Isn't it you who give the weight to those factors?
Undoubtedly, one's conditioning produces this state of affairs, but there one is.
So, if one is to be light, a light to oneself, which seems so natural, which is so revealing, why should I accept the light of another?
Would it be helpful, sir, to accept the idea of authority as a means of survival through the animal kingdom and through the kingdom of man? There has been always, in order to survive, the leader and the led.
The pack and... yes.
Yes. In order to find food, in order to discard the weaker. And this has
But
been handed down into man.
Doctor, I understand that. Mr. Thompson, I understand that very well. To live physically, I must accept certain authorities. To be secure, I must have certain authority, which may be corrupt, destructive, but there it is. But
As a means of survival.
What am I? All right, sir. I need to survive.
And therefore of man's mind.
I need to survive outwardly. That is essential. But what is there that demands survival inwardly, which creates the authority? What is there to survive?
A healthy mind.
A healthy mind. Now, can you or a guru or somebody give me a healthy mind? Healthy mind means no fear. And if you, as my guru, say, look, do this thing in order to achieve a healthy mind, I'm caught in the trap of accepting my fear, overcoming it, and following you.
It is hard to escape the requirement of knowledge in the development of a healthy mind. And knowledge must come from an authority.
Yes, sir, granted. I see that. But what am I? acquiring from the authority of a guru, of a leader, of a spiritual priest, and so on, so on. What am I acquiring? Knowledge of what?
What you know already. Is of what you know already.
What am I acquiring from the priest? From the guru who tells me this and that. What am I acquiring? I know I need knowledge to survive. But the knowledge which the guru gives me, what is the knowledge he gives me?
Knowledge of oneself.
What's that?
The knowledge of oneself.
Oh, now, the knowledge of oneself. Can I learn from a guru, from a psychologist, from Freud, etc., knowledge about myself? Or the knowledge about myself which they think they have?
Well, if I'm in disorder, Mr. Krishnamurti, I wish to have more order, I suppose.
Now,
how do I know what is order, right order?
One can't, but I know what is disorder.
Yes.
Contradiction and so on. So at least I can put those away, and now in putting those away, I have order. Through negation, I come to the positive. No, but let's come back to this. What is it that demands survival inwardly, which says I must have knowledge? To survive inwardly, you say there must be knowledge. Well, who will give it to me? The guru? The analyst? The psychologist?
Me.
Huh?
Me. I.
Therefore, from whom am I to learn?
And everyone has his own characteristic pattern.
Yes, sir. Characteristic tendencies, idiosyncrasies, all the rest of it. From whom am I to learn about myself?
Can I mention another factor besides learning and knowledge? The idea of energy, energy, you say about a guru, going to another person for energy. Feeling energy coming from another person.
Yes, sir. That's a different matter. There were so many things involved. Sir, energy derived from another person. It's a stimulation. It's a stimulation from another.
Right.
And therefore I depend on that person, or on that idea, or on that guru, or on that formula. So there is dependence, and there is fear. Where there is dependence, there must be fear.
And yet, isn't it possible still for that energy to fulfill something within me?
That is, somebody giving you energy.
That would fulfill something that would perhaps even possibly, I'm just saying possibly, there would be going beyond dependence and fear.
So, but you stimulate me, give me more energy. And so gradually I depend upon you, because I haven't got my own energy. So I depend upon you. And in that dependence there is fear. One day I might lose you. You might die. You might, lots of things might happen. So I'm afraid.
Or there might be an energy coming in and a completion of something, and then a separation.
No. You see, no? That is. Now let's finish what we began with, not energy. We'll come back to that, sir. What has the priest, the authority of a guru, the one who says, I know, what has he to give, to teach me, which will help me to survive?
I only know this by becoming aware of relationship.
Yes, sir, but so let's stick to this one thing. Let's go step by step.
We learn in our relationship to the whole world, and that includes also, it could perhaps bring insight to listen to someone who is called a guru, if one doesn't, I mean, one can listen and still perhaps...
Now, I'm questioning, madam, I'm really questioning this whole idea that another can teach you about yourself. Or another can give you this tremendous energy, passion. You follow this quality of a mind that is tremendously alive.
Can't I learn about myself in relation to other people?
No,
If I were alone, I wouldn't learn anything.
No, madam, if I accept a guru, I'm learning from him. What am I learning from him?
Well, perhaps he has found out something about himself.
But he's not. That's it. Then he's not a guru. He's just like me, like you.
Yes, but that is learning, isn't it?
But no, that is learning. But I'm asking one thing, which is, what have I to learn from a authority of a guru, etc., which will help me to survive? And what is it that survives? That is the question we are discussing. I know I have to survive outwardly. I must have authority of the milkman, all the rest of it, the doctor. But I'm asking, what is the nature of survival which the guru will give me as knowledge about myself? And I have a horror of this. Sorry.
Perhaps I have to learn something apart from what I've been taught.
Therefore, why can't I begin to study myself, look at myself, and learn about myself? Then I am the guru and I am the disciple. Nobody else is.
But isn't it very much easier to deceive oneself than for somebody to look at you and help you?
I should have thought so, I don't know.
Therefore, if you're left to yourself to find out.
But we are not left to ourselves. Here we are. I'm not left to myself. Education has destroyed me. Every newspaper, everything is interfering with me. So I have to start learning about myself. And I can only do that if I reject totally all authority.
But so I may still go to guru.
I would never go to a guru. What
But
for?
You said you did. You said you've been to several.
They come to see me. I didn't say I go to see them. They come to see me.
But you talk to them.
Yes, they talk to me because they think I am super guru.
But you see, Krishnamurti, there is a kind of authority which is nothing to do with what the guru knows or teaches, but there is a kind of I'm talking about us coming to you, which is probably what we're all...
You're not here as followers, I hope.
No, Krishnamurti, not as followers, but we are here because there is a sense that contact with you is going to open something.
How does that take place? Because you are willing to listen.
Yes.
There you are not willing to listen. Listening implies questioning, doubting, investigating, going into it. There they say, no, I know and you don't know, and follow me. I must tell you that lovely story. a very famous guru came to see me in India, and he made a lot of fuss about first sending his disciples that I should go and see him. I told the disciple, I'm sorry, I don't go out, and so on and so on. So at the end of it, he came with his disciples. We were sitting on a mat, on a thick mattress, about an inch thick. And we got up out of politeness and gave it to him. He sat there cross-legged, and immediately, because of that little height, became the guru. And he began to tell us exactly what we should do. And we listened, and we left. He left. So, what can I learn about myself? That is the real thing. My disorder, my confusion, my fears, pleasures. Can I learn all about myself? Both the conscious as well as the conscious me. And how do I learn? What is the ground in which I can learn?
I think probably the question for me is if it's possible for one person blind learn about the colors.
About the colors?
Because for me this is the real question, psychological, Because I don't understand what is learn about myself. Learn about what?
We'll find out, sir. We'll find out. If that is the major question, what is learning, and can I learn about myself, and where does this learning lie? Is it in the field of relationship, or is it an abstract learning about myself? An abstract learning about myself has no meaning. I'm talking all the time, sorry. And I can only learn about myself in my relationship with another. I can learn about myself in front of the Guru. Right? How he behaves.
This is important in relationship to the question I put at first. There is a Guru, perhaps, I've never met one, who will tell me about myself. There's another Guru who will tell me how to find out about myself. He may also say that you can't find out about yourself by yourself, you must relate to others. You must get together in a group to learn about yourself.
Now, I'm telling you that, sir.
Yes.
Am I your Guru?
I don't really take it as such. So
no, because why?
First and foremost, of course, because one has been assured on so many occasions that you are not.
But that assurance may be a cover-up, a hypocritical stance. Why do you accept this from a Guru who says only you can know about yourself in relationship? Not by yourself.
Because in relationship, you are in relationship also.
What?
You.
Quite right, sir. So when the man says you can only, then you and I are related. Then in discussion, in talking, in walking together, being together, we learn about each other. In that relationship, there is no Guru. I don't put myself as an authority. And you, the follower, who says, learn from me, this is the way to learn. We are together learning.
Can I carry it a little further, sir? When such a situation comes into being, say a group of people come together, some organization becomes necessary, apparently, and then the organization takes on some authority. And the authority is no better than the members of the organization.
Quite.
And perhaps this is really the heart of the question.
Yes, sir. So you are saying authority assumes the form of organization, and the organization becomes the burden, and the burden one has to carry it around. And so we are saying, why do you want an organization?
And one further thing must be added. Unless you conform to the organization, we don't want you.
But who is forming an organization? So except, say here, Brockwood, there is a school. That is an organization. That has no authority to organize my life or your life.
Naturally, I'm not speaking of here. I'm speaking of...
Oh, well, I'm...
But this seems to happen always. It seems to be...
So organization becomes far more important. Organization means property, money, the president, all the beastly stuff around it. We've dissolved that long ago, sir. You follow? So let's come back to this. Can learning about oneself, whatever that may mean, lies in the area of relationship.
Is learning about myself, learning about my mind, which has already been formed by my life?
Myself is my conditioning, my education, the culture I've lived, the religion which has been pumped into me. You follow? All that is me.
Yeah. But I don't know very much about it.
Therefore, I'm going to learn. Can I learn by myself or in relationship with another? To learn by myself means I must withdraw from all society, all relationship, all communication, and live completely by myself. Which is utterly impossible unless I become totally neurotic and I'm locked up. So I can only learn about myself from in my relationship, whatever that relationship is. And what is myself? And can anybody teach me about myself?
I think it's not very clear at all the meaning of learning,
Yeah, all right. Let's take that.
I think I see in relationship all my life things I consider very important, interesting, whatever it is. But instant after, yes, in the right moment, this knowledge, you understand, not coming. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So this is not learned. Because if I can use, you understand, in the exactly right moment, this is rubbish.
May I?
Right?
Yeah, I understand, sir.
So
May I?
Learn is something. If we don't have mirror, how is possible to learn? Put in other words.
No, the mirror you have is relationship.
If I don't see, no mirror.
I mean, therefore, why don't you see? Let's find out whether it's possible.
For a start.
Sir, let's find out how to look in the mirror. The mirror is the relationship. Whether it's my wife, my girl, my father, mother, whatever it is, my neighbor. That's the mirror I have. That's the only mirror that I have. And I look in there. Am I capable of looking? And what does it mean to look? Am I looking at it as an observer, outside looking in, or there is no observer at all but looking? So we come back to the question, the observer is the observed. We won't go into that yet, because perhaps that's a little too far away yet. So the mirror is relationship which reveals the nature and the structure of myself.
If I see.
Of course. That is if I want to see. If I don't want to,
The point is nobody see nothing. This is the point.
Huh?
The point is nobody see nothing at all. This is the point.
Now wait, don't assume that, Mr. Carlos.
All right.
Don't assume nobody sees nothing. I want to see. My feeling, my urgency, my intensity says I must see, because perhaps I will solve all my difficulties, all my problems, all my suffering.
So, excuse me, we've spoken about the guru. It seems to me that the subtler form of that in ourselves is that we are dependent on the approval or the disapproval of people around us.
That's part of our relationship.
Right. So it seems to me that I don't have a guru, but I have that problem. Now, how can I deal with it?
Sir, that is, you say, I want the approval of others. Why? Because I'm rather nervous, shy, diffident, and perhaps you will encourage me. You'll say, you're doing very well, old chap, go on, and so on. That means dependency, which will inevitably cripple my thinking because it breeds fear. So I reject, moment I see something of that kind, I reject that dependency.
But that's something one could learn about oneself, isn't it?
We are doing it now.
So you say I reject it. I don't understand how I can reject it.
Sir, look, sir, I look to you to encourage me, which means gradually I depend on you. And dependence will inevitably breed fear, won't it? So there it is. I've learned a great deal. By depending on you for your encouragement, for your sustenance, for your encouragement, all that, gradually I discover how frightened I am. That's what's making me depend. Therefore, I go into the question of fear.
So there seems to be a time lag from the moment of dependency with all the reaction that goes on, and then I sit here now and I see this, but at that moment, and then there's this time lag which means that somehow the seeing doesn't have the effect. If one can use
because that's why it's very important.
Yes.
Are we seeing or seeing through the eyes of the observer?
Yes.
That is the whole problem.
Yes. When you say the observer is thought about, the thought about it later is the observer.
Yes, yes.
I think both things happen, don't they?
We'll go. I don't know what's going. Let's inquire into it. Now, if we see the point that no psychologist, no guru, no analyst will teach me about myself, and I can only learn about myself in the mirror of relationship. If that is taken for granted as a basis, as the basic reality, the principle, then we can proceed from there. If we don't see that, then we'll go around talking about whether more gurus or less gurus, who is stronger guru and who is more enlightened guru and all the rest of that nonsense.
So I can't feel this is the reality here at this moment.
Huh?
I cannot feel that this is the reality, that
What?
we do see this.
I'm
frightened to contradict you, or to, not contradict, that's the wrong word, to add to the...
But we are doing this. We are questioning me. Aren't you questioning?
But so many people would say that through relationship with that psychologist, guru, or whoever it is, they are learning. In other words, it's the interaction between the two people.
Now wait a minute. Must I go to the guru, to the analyst to learn? I'm married, I've got sisters, sons, neighbors. Why can't I learn from there? Why should I go to a guru to teach me about myself?
But usually the people who are in trouble with relationship are in trouble with those people around them. Therefore they have to go somewhere else.
Which means what?
Seek another relationship which is less frightening,
less frightening. So I come to you and I pour out all my troubles to you, and in that relationship with you, I am learning. Now, in my relationship with you, which is frightening, in that relationship, can't I see clearly? What is it that prevents my seeing clearly in the troubled waters of relationship between you and me?
Generally it is that fear that in certain areas is so great that it blocks any kind of perception.
So I accept that. I say, no, I'm frightened. So I go into that. What is fear? You follow? I don't want to go out of my world into another world to understand myself. I don't want to go to Africa to learn about myself through studying animals. I don't know.
In the situations, one is faced with racing thoughts, boiling feelings.
We'll come to that, sir, in a minute. If we here really see this point, that we can only learn about ourselves in the mirror of relationship. That relationship is where we are, not the relationship between me and my guru. If we start with that basic thing, then we can proceed. Do we take that? Then
the relationship between you and yourself, me and myself, or is the relationship between you and somebody else?
I'm coming to that, sir. I'm coming to that presently. We'll see to that. Now, I can only learn about myself in the mirror of relationship. Right. Now, what is necessary to see clearly in the mirror?
Could it be honesty?
Maybe, I don't know.
Seems the quality of attention must be right.
Quality of attention. Honesty, quality of attention.
Doesn't one have to observe without judging?
Observe without judging.
I think if you
conditioning.
That's right, sir. But who is the looker? Who is it that looks into the mirror? Is it previous knowledge that looks into the mirror as the observer? And the observer, the previous knowledge, experience, memory, who is the observer, looks into that mirror and says, what he sees is different from what he thinks he is. I wonder.
Yeah. Mm.
So, as long as there is the observer, which is knowledge, which he has acquired through experience in relationship, exists, there must be division between the seer and the seen. And that breeds conflict. So I have to learn, mind must learn what the nature of the observer is before he sees himself in the mirror.
Ignorance, it is.
Don't put it into words yet.
Because ignorance is previous knowledge.
The observer, the actor, the experiencer, the thinker, all that. What is he? I have seen something in the mirror as the observer. From that seeing I have gathered knowledge, experience in that relationship, and that knowledge, with that knowledge I look afresh at the mirror. Right? No? Don't contradict yet, sir. Look at it. Play with it a little bit.
Are we saying that what is being looked at is the past?
No, what is being looked at, no, what is the looker, the observer is the past. Look, sir, I'm related to you. And in that relationship, certain incidents take place, pleasurable and painful. Those incidents have become knowledge. And with that knowledge, I look at you in the mirror, which is the past looks in the present, which is the active relationship with the eyes of the past. So, the eyes of the past is the observer, which he has put together through the experience of some incident. This is... You and I, in our relationship, have quarreled. Bitter words, anger, may have slapped me even. And that incident is the past with its knowledge, with its feelings. That incident is the observer. No? Come on. And when there is that incident in my mind about in that relationship with you, I've stopped learning altogether. So learning means the observation in the mirror without the observer.
I think that you call it an observer is already confused the issue. It isn't observing anything, so it's just simply the conclusions of the past.
Conclusions of the past. That's right. The conclusions of the past, the opinions, the experiences, which is the me, which is the essence of the observer, the seer, the experiencer, the thinker, looks at that mirror. And whatever he sees must be distorted. And that distortion is disorder.
In other words, that that's not seeing, that's interpretation.
You don't say, well, if I have an image about you, how can I see you?
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir, that's right. That's right, sir.
What's about the function of seeing?
What's that?
About the function of seeing. You see, I would like to ask, there might be a person which is functionally able to see. There might be another person which is unable to see.
The person unable to see in the mirror he can't see because he's looking through the eyes of the past. Right, sir? I can't see you because I have an image about you. And that image has been built in our relationship. If I have no image, then I can see you. And is that possible? So I'm learning. See what I've learned? Tremendous lot about myself. I've learned that there is nobody can teach me. I can't depend on anybody. However enlightened, however noble, however, whatever they are. I've seen the truth of that. And I've seen the truth that any form of dependency must nourish more fear. So I see the truth of it, not verbally, therefore it's gone. I won't depend on anybody. And I see, and I'm learning that only in the mirror of relationship there is learning. And there is no learning if the mind looks at that mirror with the eyes of the past. Now, is that possible to look at that mirror without the image, memory, the whole experience that has been built up in my relationship with you? I've lived with you for 10 years, and my God, we've gone through all kinds of things. Pain, pleasure, sex, annoyance, vanity, companionship, all that goes on in any kind of relationship. And I see that I cannot possibly learn about myself if the image or the images remain. Therefore, I've seen that. Now, next thing is, how is the mind to be free of those images? Is that possible? Or are we fishing in waters that there is no fish at all?
One of the difficulties is that it's when we talk about it sitting here, one can sort of get the feeling of this, but when one is in actual relationship, as well as the two people, there are often factual circumstances of which one never will lose the image because it's as sort of factual as, knowing how to sit in a chair almost. Therefore, it's difficult for the mind to abandon images altogether.
We're going to find out, madam. We're going to find out slowly if it is possible at all to be free of the image which the mind has built or gathered knowledge in this relationship. Not only sitting here, but all the time be free of this image.
Mr. Krishnamurti, sometimes I find that my actual reaction to a situation is not at all what I would think it ought to be, what I would think the
Yes.
And one can sometimes see the difference.
You see, when you say what it oughtn't to be, my reactions oughtn't to be that, you've got an ideal about what your reaction should be, which is the image you have about yourself. The same thing. So we're asking, is it possible to be free of images altogether?
Can one make a distinction between the memory that's essential and the one that leaves...
No, sir. Memories as knowledge. I know how to ride a bicycle, drive a car, walk, this knowledge. You can't put aside that. We're only talking about knowledge as images which our mind has built about another in relationship. That's what we're talking about.
Yes, but I wondered if there's any distinction between those two.
Surely.
Can one really make a break, as people make between the conscious and the subconscious and so on?
Isn't there a difference between the two? The image of the policeman and the image of my wife may be the same. Sorry. Fortunately, I'm not married, so I can talk about it.
No, but I think I see what you feel in a certain relationship with a person. If, for instance, you're in a relationship with a younger person, and you have certain responsibilities towards that person, factually in it.
I have to.
They might damage themselves if they do something.
And of course,
Nevertheless, it sort of teeters over into an area where it's almost coming into a psychological thing. It's very difficult to separate the two.
You see, when we say intelligence will operate functionally, when necessary, in relationship with the young or old, if there is no image.
Can I ask you if image means, you say it only means the psychological image?
I've got dozens of images, but we're only concerned with this for the moment. I mean, if you're a British, you have the image of the Queen and all that, and the glory of, past glory of Britain and all that. If you're the image of India, you have the tremendous tradition of a religious life and all that. And so it goes on. But we've got dozens of images, but we're talking of the image which we have in our relationship, which prevents all learning. Learning about oneself. And is it possible to be free of this image?
Does this include the sort of reaction that one has to a smell or a sound?
To
a smell of some sort?
No,
sir. I mean, sometimes that will bring back a whole emotional
Of course,
memory.
of course. I mean, when you smell a jasmine, it has got all the romantic associations and all the rest of it. But we're not talking that for the moment, sir. We are talking of relationship between you, your wife, your children, your neighbor. And that in that relationship, which in that mirror, can you observe without the image? That is this. Let's stick to that one question.
Aren't you talking about the image which appears to be reality, not the image which is known to be an image?
Of course, of course. The image which we have built up through thought.
Yes, which is still seen as reality, not...
Yes, of course, naturally. But this image, which mind has built in relationship, is terribly real. You have hurt me, you have brutalized me, you have said things that are so appalling. You have given me sex and a dozen things. And there I am. My image is very strong. My conceit about that image. I think I know.
That image is very strong, but in a very subjective way.
Yes, sir.
It is not an objective image.
No, it's a pure
and
inward.
Seen with the eye.
Yes.
And it's not really an image seen subjectively, because the observer is bound up in it.
That's why I want to come later. Well, it's possible to free the mind from the image. And what is the energy, you follow, sir, or the nature of this looking that will free the mind from the image of the observer itself, which is inward. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Yes, it seems to me that the inward subjective image prevents you seeing the objective real thing.
Yes.
But if the subjective imagery, one's opinions and so on, is seen as its actual
value,
sensational components, then that act negates those just as the previous act negated the objective.
Yes, yes. You understand? I mean, I'm saying to myself, how is this mind to free itself from the image of an Indian, the image of all the tradition, the nationality, the qualities of that race, and the racial inheritance, all that is the image. And can that mind, which is conditioned by the image, and the image is the conditioning, can that mind free itself? And does the mind see the necessity or the importance of freedom, freeing from this image?
But if you're going to free yourself in order that there is something better after.
No, I don't know anything better. If I say there is something better, it is the creation of further image.
So isn't just the seeing of it, doesn't that create the freedom?
That's right, sir. How does the mind see? That's what we're coming to, you see?
You spoke about the authority of the observer, and I find I'm in much difficulty in the authority of the observed. It seems as though what I observe is also the observer. That is, whatever I look at, I ask, but is that real? I may say something is ugly or beautiful, but have I put this onto the thing?
Obviously,
what do I see?
but
what
no.
Can I see?
What I don't quite understand what you're saying.
What can the observer be separated from the observed be separated from the observer? Can there be pure observation that can be...
That's what we are trying to find out. We have separated the observer from the observed. That happens all the time in our relationship. And as long as the observer, who is the past, who is the image builder, the observer himself is the image, which separates itself from the thing observed, can that observer cease? Otherwise, he will be everlastingly building images. I throw away this image and I build another, and so on and on and on. Can I learn? Can the mind learn what it is doing in relationship? Learn when it's attacked, when it is, all the interaction that's going on all the time.
So, when you put a conclusion on something, doesn't that mean that's the observer? And not if you just see the thing without coming to a conclusion.
That's right, sir.
Or without.
Now, can you? Yes, quite right, quite right. Can you do that in relationship?
Well, I'm saying if you do that.
And not if.
I mean,
can you do it now?
Yes.
Can you do this in relationship without the observer?
Yes. If you don't.
And not if. It's a tremendously difficult thing, sir. You have hurt me. You have said terrible things. All the rest of it.
Yes.
Pleasure, pain, fear, consolation. 100 things. They're all stored up in my mind, whether wanting it or not. They're there. And that isolates me from you. That knowledge has separated me from another. And I remain in that separation, fighting, quarreling, bitterness, all the rest of it comes from that, from the flowering of those images. Now, can the mind be free of those images? And is that ever possible?
So, further to what I said about the conclusion, if you take away the individual such as yourself out of the context of relationship, then that gets rid of...
Can you do that, sir?
Yes.
You have done it. I'm not questioning you because that's your personal affair. But is that possible? I'm not saying it is not. I'm questioning it.
No, I fall back into...
And there are moments when you can observe that relationship without the image. But there are other moments of greater period when the images dominate.
Yes.
And I'd say that's not good enough for me. You follow? I want to be fed all the time, not rarely. So I say to myself, is this possible to be free of the dozen images which the mind thought has built? And the mind, the thought, is the maker of image.
Christian, a very practical example. If a person has lied and twisted, and it's in a sense proved, and you're involved in a continuing relationship with that person, are you saying that even the knowledge of that must go absolutely?
Listen, I have lied to you. Because for various reasons. You have that memory, that experience with me. How will you meet me next time? With that image? With that knowledge that I have lied to you? You're bound to.
That is always the...
Then what? So what will you do with me?
One is wary.
Huh?
Well, obviously one comes in a wary state of mind.
What will you do? I'm your son or your husband or your whatever it is, neighbor. How will you meet me? With your previous knowledge?
There's always the...
Tell me what you will do actually. This is most practical.
Yes.
Yes, then what takes place? You have built a barrier against me. I have produced it. I was responsible for it. But it remains with you. And I may have changed. I see I shouldn't have lied. I won't anymore. Finished. I'll stand up or whatever I do.
Yes.
But you have the image about me.
But if you meet a person who is...
Constantly lying. If I'm constantly lying, you say, well, my God, what am I to do with that chap? Huh? So you are very, very, very careful what you do.
That's what I mean.
Of course you have to.
Yes.
If I'm constantly deceiving you, you say, I must, naturally.
Is that an image?
Huh?
Is that an image?
Look, I'm constantly hurting you. What will you do? I've faced this relationship personally. What will one do? What will you do? Constantly being bullied, constantly being all the rest of it. What does one do?
And be extra careful in your presence.
And I don't want to be careful in your presence. That's another image which I've built about myself. I must be awfully careful with that person.
We also have images, don't we, of people, whether we like them or don't.
Of course. All that's, they smell bad or they do this or that, doesn't think. Now I'm asking you. I'm hurting you every day, bullying you, threatening, all the rest of it. So how will you be free? How will you remain so that you will not be hurt by me?
That's a little bit different.
So don't discuss theoretically. There is a problem right in front of you. How will you deal with it?
But that's a different question from what we were asking, I would think. So. In other words, you see the person who constantly does something harmful.
To you, in relationship.
Yes. Therefore, when you meet that person again, it is a fact that that person has done whatever...
It doesn't think.
It's a different moment. That person is that kind of person.
And how will... And I'm living with you, happen to be living with you in the same house, and we are related. Then how will you deal with me?
Well, it would seem that the fact of the way that person is
I am built that way. You're not concerned about me. I am built that way. I'm a bully.
Yes.
And you are not. And I'm hurting you. What is your relationship? What is your structure of mind that is bulletproof?
Sir, don't you have there's two different kinds of bullying. There's physical bullying.
Now we are discussing this psychological thing. Please stick to one thing.
One becomes aware that one must be free of that image.
So, look, I am living with you as your wife, husband, son.
Yes.
And I'm hurting you,
yes.
Bullying you, yes. All the rest of it. And how will you be free of me and live in the house? You can go away and say, go to hell and walk out. That's a different matter. But you are going to live with me. You were there. How will you deal? What is the nature of your mind that says, yes, I know how to deal with that stupid man?
Well, the trouble is we don't know, do we?
Huh?
We don't. That's why we're caught.
I'm asking you this. Here is a relationship. I bully you. And how will you receive it and remain unhurt?
But I have
Because
been
we
aware
receive-
of this. Sorry.
Because we're receiving that hurt in the context of I, me. And if we could receive that hurt without
So,
my personality.
can you do it? Will you do it? Tell me how to do it. Not if, conditional. It is an actual fact. Look, sir, I have lived with people who have really like that. What shall I know what I did.
Or you work with people.
What?
Or it can be a working relationship.
It was very working.
Yes, I mean, it's not even the context of me in that sense. It's often in the context of it interfering with work or...
I'm not interfering with work and so on, that's a different matter. If they pay them, I said, sorry, please, from tomorrow don't come.
But you may not be in a position to say that.
Huh?
You may not be in a position to say that.
Wait, I said if I'm employing somebody who is a bully, then I can wiggle out of it.
If you're...
Yeah. Wait. But if I'm living with you in a house and and you're bullying me, please take it as a fact. How will you live in the same house, see me, and be free of the image that I have built in you?
But what one actually does is search all sorts of ways to escape this situation.
Of course, sir, I understand all that. Escape, avoid, pacify, all the tricks that one plays with a bully. But you have tried all that, but you're not meeting my point.
Sir, if one doesn't... Sorry.
Yes, sir?
If one doesn't have an image of oneself...
Again, sir, forgive me for... You are theoretically, if... conditional thinking. I'm sorry, no, I can't accept that because I am wounded. And you come along and say, if that happened, you won't be wounded. But my dear sir, I am wounded. It's no good saying, if you are healthy, you won't. But I am living with you. I am the bully. How will you meet it?
Try not to resist it, sir.
What?
Not to resist it.
And the more you not resist, the greater bully I become. I've seen this happen.
The image seems to be kept going by thinking about it.
It is happening every day.
I mean, one goes on thinking about it almost deliberately. It seems to me that where we actually are is not in wanting to discover ourselves, but to confirm ourselves.
I said, Madam, at the beginning of the discussion, this dialogue, conversation, we said, do we want to, is this our basic purpose or that we have come together? If that isn't there, well, it doesn't matter. If you don't want to learn, don't learn. Go and play golf, or go and swim, or go and do something else. Nice cinema, Jack Hall, the day of the Jack Hall, go and see it.
If we did drop the image, sir, it could be very dangerous as well.
What, sir?
If we did drop the image, it could be very dangerous.
I'm not sure. You may have a different feeling altogether. You may know what love means. You may know what something totally different.
No, I meant the image of the person. If this person you expected him to do some real harm to you, and you did drop the image, then it wouldn't stop him from doing the harm still.
I'm asking you, sir. You have built an image about your wife, husband, neighbor, the world you live in. Can you be free of that image? Be free, not just occasionally.
The fear comes up.
Wait, no, there is no fear involved. You have these images. There is no fear involved. You think you might be afraid. Therefore, it's not fear. The fact is you have these images. And the fact is that these images prevent relationship. And we are asking, can the mind be free of those images? So come on, sir.
The mind, for instance, could only be free of those images in learning how to meet the person.
You can only learn, Nelson, you can only learn how to meet that person when you have no image which that person has created in you.
Yes, that's what I'm
Therefore, can you be free of the image? You go round and round.
So, the mind, when you pose that question to this mind, immediately makes another image in order to answer that question. So it seems to be going round and round.
No,
making
you know,
images.
if you put me that question, have you lived in relationship with another without image? And if you have had an image, are you free of that image? Wait, if you can ask me that, I say yes, I'll show you how. But you don't go into it, you stop round it.
The mind is the image.
What, sir?
The mind is the image. The mind is the image.
How do you know?
You become aware of it.
Have you?
Yes.
And you say the mind is the image maker.
But is the image.
Is the image, or the image and the image maker. Now, can you be free of that image and the image making?
But who is this you that is free of it?
So that's it. No, I'm only making it as in conversation. Don't put the you. Can the mind, your mind, the mind of those of us here, can our minds be free of the image? Is your mind aware that you have images first? Right? If you have them, how is it that they continue to live?
Because we're separated.
No, don't guess. Go, bite into it, find out.
Is it because we don't see the importance that if we don't drop the images, then there is no relationship?
We want to keep some of them, no? We want to keep some images.
If you keep some of them, you want to keep some of them, which are pleasant, and you want to get rid of the images that are pleasant. But they're still images. We are talking all images.
Krishna Ji, every time you ask us whether we see images in ourselves, you also ask the same question just after that. You say, do you also see the importance of having images and not
Sir,
having
of course. Do you see that you have images? What are the implications of having those images in relationship? We went into that, sir.
With someone who is in a relationship where one party is constantly bullying, that can become real fact.
It is a fact.
And no longer imagery.
How shall I meet it without creating an image about that person? That means reaction, that means fear, that all that thing that goes on. Can the mind meet that person without a single image?
Meet that person or meet
the nerves respond.
What?
Meet the person or meet his own state.
Sir, may I put it this way? I live with you and I'm a bully. I'm rather cruel and so on. You have naturally have reactions from that, and those reactions are the image which I have given you in our relationship. And I'm asking, how can you be free of these images so that you are never hurt, never go through all the turmoil of all that.
When you say that the bully has given it to you, the way that it has been something given to you is in you're holding it in thought. You're taking the thought of what happened with this bully relationship. And then when you come into the room or whatever, then that thought arises. And so you are dealing with it immediately with the thought of the previous experiences.
Yes.
And that's what happens if you have the fear and the images. If you're not thinking about it, if you're not carrying the thinking of it.
No, I understand. When you are not in my presence, you have no image of me. When you have in my presence, you get this image built, comes into being immediately, right?
But it's thinking that's...
What?
It's thinking.
Yeah, it's part of all that. Now, can you be free of the image so that you can look at me without any, not with indifference, that's another image, you follow? Meet me.
And not without knowledge.
Of course there is knowledge. Of course you are a bully. Of course you have done things to me. Ill-treat, all the rest of it.
Sir, there is no doubt about this at all in hindsight. One must agree all along the line out of one's experience in hindsight. But there's something missing at the very moment, the crucial moment.
Which really means, can the observer be absent? And can they, not absent, totally absent, you follow, not occasionally. So that you only see me, the bully, and nothing else. You understand? So, you, as the observer, have completely non-existent with your reactions, images, intentions, and all that. And you only see me. Do you know what takes place when you do that?
Are you just asking if it can be done? If we can lose the images?
Yes. No, I'm not saying it can. I say it can be done.
You're saying it can be done?
Not think.
Why should we?
What, sir?
Why should we do it?
Why should we do it? Because, sir, I have an image about Pakistan as a Hindu, and we are at each other's throat. He wants to kill me, I want to kill him. This is happening. I am the Jew and the Arab. My image as the Arab wants to push Israel into the sea. And I, as the Jew, want to push, and so on. And we are everlastingly at battle with each other. And that's why I want to be free of this battle. And that's intelligence says, for God's sake, why live this way?
I suppose that the image we have of someone else is never true, is it?
I'm not concerned about another. I'm saying, can I be free of this image? And if I am free, if it is possible, what is then a relationship?
May one ask one question about the image?
You
Is
may.
there a difference?
You may.
You have knowledge, and you speak of knowledge and you speak of image. Now, is there a factor in this concept of image which has what I would call reaction in it? So it isn't just plain knowledge. The man is a bully, he bullies. That's knowledge.
Finished.
Yes, that's knowledge.
Of course.
But when you're using the word image of the bully, are you, in that, is the...
All my reactions.
Yes, so that it's a different category. If we
Of
could
course,
see that
we said that.
action.
We said that.
Therefore,
If you look at me without any reaction, I'm the bully. What? You're nothing.
But so you can't use the word bully without...
And then I said, no, I'm for...
You mean
I'm
the object?
the object, so it's a peculiar colored object, which is called bully. That's good enough. Now, can you observe me without the reaction of the image which is knowledge?
But before that, if I
Yeah,
could
go
phrase it
ahead.
differently, you're speaking about the reaction because there's an image. And I'm trying to ask, does one have an image because one has built up a reaction to a fact?
That's all, of course.
And then in turn,
Yeah,
to
all
the
the rest.
image, you get another reaction to the image that's already
Surely,
in your head.
surely.
So are you now asking, can one look at the bully in this case, or whatever it is, with the knowledge of
Yeah.
what that person does, but with no element of reaction either in the past or in that moment? Is that what you're asking?
Of course. Then what is your relationship with the bully? Very interesting. Go, you follow?
Could it be that part of this would be, why would the person be bullying me when maybe sometimes he wouldn't be bullying somebody else? It
I
could
am
be
there
part of
with
the
him.
problem with-
I am there with you in the kitchen. I am there with you in the office. I am there with you in home. You can't just say, get out. I am there.
No, but
So
what
you don't...
what I mean is, why would you be bullying me, yet you wouldn't bully somebody else?
No, because
Would it
I
something
happen to
me
be
that
with you.
causes you?
I happen to be with you. If you weren't there, I would be bullying her. My nature is to bully.
Yeah, but all bullies don't bully everybody.
No. Oh, for the God's sake. No, they won't, of course not. A greater bully. If you turn on the bully, he crumbles. This is over.
Let me approach it another way. You stated that you are seeing us without the image, even at this very moment. Right? And can you demonstrate that to us, what it is, you see?
I don't quite understand.
Well, you see, I mean, you are seeing us without an image. And if we could see you without the image, then at this moment we would be in that relationship that you're talking about.
I understand, but I don't know.
And now, you asked before, you said that perhaps you could show us what, see, since the thing is not verbal.
They're essentially non-verbal.
Yeah, so it has to be shown, doesn't it?
Yes, it has to be shown.
And there's no use for us to talk about it indefinitely.
No. So you're asking the speaker to demonstrate, to show what it means to have no image. Is that it?
Yes.
In relationship.
Yes.
He's Dr. Bohm. What does it mean to have no relationship, no image? All right, sir. Let's proceed. I have no image about being an Indian. None whatever. With all the traditions involved in it. The Brahman, the tremendous orthodoxy, not to touch a human being who is not a Brahman. You know, It's a tremendous thing in India. I don't feel any of that. That's a demonstration, isn't it?
You're saying you did get exposed to that.
Or I have been to India dozen times, lived with people who are non-Brahmins. It doesn't come up in me at all.
And therefore, you can meet either the Brahmin or the non-Brahmin intelligently.
Yes, that's all. Not intelligent.
Well,
Wait a minute.
not intelligent.
It doesn't enter into my mind whether they are or they are not.
That's what I mean. But then, therefore, therefore what you do can be intelligent. Otherwise, if you see through the image.
I wonder how we are using that word intelligence, sir. I must be a little careful here because when the conditioning as a Brahman, Hindu, is not, then what takes place? Is it intelligence? If intelligence you mean non-division, you follow, sir?
Yeah.
Then we'll accept that word. That is, the non-division between the mind. There is no division in the mind that is no longer a Hindu or a Brahman. If that is intelligence, all right, then what takes place? The tradition there is Guru is the highest importance in religious matters. That is a very, in India, Guru means, the word Guru means the one, it has got several meanings. The first meaning is immense. The word itself means immense. Rather interesting. And also it means the one who is enlightened, who is enlightened, who is free, who is capable of taking away your burdens. The meaning of that. But instead of that, the Gurus put on their burden onto you. That's a different matter. And Guru also means who will carry you over to the other bank. All that is implied in that word Guru. Now, that tradition, every Sanskrit chant, that word is embedded in it subtly. And I chant a great deal about all that. It never touched me, the mind.
Never from the beginning.
From the beginning, though I said Guru's master, it never touched me. I have demonstrated this to myself, watched this very carefully when there wasn't all the rest of it. So in my relationship with a bullies or XYZ, I watched it very, very, very carefully. Not because I want to be free of etc. Just watch what my reactions were. First I was a great man, you follow? And I'm this, that. And putting all that aside, what can I look at that man or that woman or that person without any image? I don't have to prove it to you. I've done it. Doesn't matter. Now,
so you're able to say to us that you see us without images. If, for instance, I could see you now without images, would I know it? That I was seeing you without images?
I know. First of all, you must know that you have images, haven't you?
Yeah.
Then, is it possible for you to be free of the image?
I don't know.
And therefore find out.
Yeah. But who do I go to find out?
What?
To whom do I go?
Oh no, don't go to anybody.
Yeah.
Then I become your guru.
Yeah.
So how will you let's talk it over. How will you, who have image, be free of that image? You know, there are images not only at the conscious level, but also images deeply embedded. Now, are you aware of it? The American, the English, your particular family, the conditioning, you follow? Are you aware of it?
I'm not sure if I'm aware of very deeper images.
Huh?
I'm not sure of how deep my awareness goes.
Well, that's... If it doesn't go very deeply, then you're merely looking at on the surface. And why are you looking only on the surface? Why can't you go deeply? Deeply being conscious as well as the total content of your mind consciousness, which is in which are all the images. What time is it? 20? 20 past 5? No. For 2 hours? Can we go on with this tomorrow? Right, we better. It's too long. You don't mind stopping now and going on, sir?
Thank you very much.
No, that's... Thank you very much, sir.